Welcome to the collection of the wildest and craziest AITA Reddit stories of all time. From wild betrayals to shocking twists, these tales will leave you questioning who is really in the wrong. Let's dive in together. The first story for this collection is from important-average-97. AITA, for feeling like I want to give up on my marriage? I, 31M, have been married to my wife, 25F, for almost a year now. We've been together for nearly 5 years and living together for 3. But I'm starting to wonder if divorce might be the best option. Our relationship has always had its ups and downs, but we worked through them. During the earlier years, I went through a lot with my failed startups, COVID and other factors, my business ventures. I worked my ass off, especially when I was running a restaurant and bar. But despite all my effort, the business failed. To her credit, my wife was incredibly supportive during those times. She helped wherever she could, encouraged me, and even used her family connections to help. For context, she comes from a wealthy family and never really had to worry about money, while I grew up in a comfortable but modest single-parent household. After my restaurant failed, her family suggested a new business opportunity for me. It was a game changer. For the first time in my life, I was making good money. Life felt great. We traveled, shopped, and enjoyed our expensive tastes. I felt like I could finally relax a bit. But after about a year and a half, the economy tanked and business slowed down. Thankfully, I had saved up around $300K, but my wife started talking about wanting to get married, have kids, and plan for the future. I wasn't completely ready for that, but I loved her. She had been supportive and stuck by me during my rough times, so we got engaged and married 8 months later. The wedding wasn't her dream wedding, but she said she'd rather save the money for our honeymoon. We took a first-class trip to Europe, London, Paris, Rome, Amsterdam, and had the time of our lives, with a few minor arguments about me not taking her side, which has always been a thing. After we got back, she pushed me to find the next big thing, since our savings wouldn't last forever with our lifestyle and the idea of having kids. And I'll be honest, I got lazy. Making money with the last business was so easy that I struggled to figure out my next step. Whenever she asked what I was doing to provide for the family, my answer was always, I'm working on it, because I genuinely didn't know. A couple of months ago, her family decided to take their company public and wanted her to be the face of it. Her mom was all over her about taking the role, saying, since your husband isn't making money and you want kids soon, you should do this. The job requires her to travel constantly to another city. Her family promised that if she does this for 2 years, we'll be financially set for life. I hated the idea of her being away so much, but she accepted it because she felt like it was the only way forward. At first, it wasn't too bad. We texted and called a lot, and I missed her. But then she reconnected with her old college friends. Think Crazy Rich Asians levels of wealth. She started hanging out with them, and over time, her tone toward me changed. Suddenly, I was a deadbeat, and only made money because of her family connections. She'd say things like, you're 31, you should be doing better by now, and compare me to her friends' boyfriends, who are younger and making more money. She also started saying things like, we didn't think things through before getting married. We have so many unresolved issues. When she came back, the arguments kept happening. I told her I was working on it. I'm studying for a real estate license, learning to code, and even taking a management course to improve my skills. She softened up a bit during her last trip, and we started talking more. But the tension is still there. Now that she's back, it feels like there's this wall between us. I've been retreating to the study room, focusing on myself and trying to rebuild, but I'm just exhausted. She's not wrong. I should be doing more. I'm 31, and I need to figure out a stable career instead of living off my savings and waiting for the next big break. But I'm so tired of her constant comparisons to her friends who've never had to work a day in their lives. Her words cut deep, and I feel drained. Lately, I've been drinking myself to sleep. Her words have cut deep, and I feel more depressed every day. To be honest, I don't want a divorce. I truly love her, and coming from a divorced family myself, I don't want something like that to happen to me. But I'm starting to feel like I can't handle much more of this. AITA? OP is not an AH for seeking a divorce from his wife. His wife is an AH for not supporting him during his downfall and comparing him to others. OP needed her support, but she kept on criticizing him. As for scores, I would rate OP's wife 2.5 out of 5. And OP gets a 0. Let's now jump onto the next story from tasty_word_2747. AITA for laughing in my mother's face when she said my stepsister planned my 18th birthday. A little background. My mom and dad separated when I was 6, and each went their separate ways. Of course, they had joint custody of me, but they both started new families. When I was 9, my mom married a man, let's call him Robert, who already had a daughter, let's call her Kira, who was 2 years older than me. My dad got engaged when I was 8 to a wonderful woman, let's call her Layla, who he married when I was 12. My relationship with Layla is beautiful. She has truly been a mother to me. She basically helped my dad raise me. She takes an interest in my life. She comforts me. She advises me. We have common interests, and we do many activities together. She and I recently talked about the possibility of having her legally adopt me as soon as I come of age. Doing so now would be a bit messy legally because of my parents' joint custody. Because, for me, she is my real mother, and I want it to be official. My relationship with my bio mother, on the other hand, is almost non-existent. Even though I was forced to spend specific days with her, we never managed to bond, because she spent all her time giving attention and affection to Kira, who already have her own mother. Even when she tried to involve me in some activity, she always included Kira, and we had to do only what Kira liked. At a certain point, I started to decline her invitations and often asked if I could avoid going to her on the set days because I was almost always ignored or left aside, and I preferred to stay at home with my father and Layla. My father always tried to understand me, but he also had to honor the rules set by the judge. When I got more mature, he admitted that he was afraid that my mother might make some mean move in court if he agreed to not let me go to her on the appointed days. Yeah, this is something my mother would do. After knowing this, I understood my father's reasons, and I absolutely don't want to put him in trouble, so I didn't make such requests anymore, and I respected my schedule. Now let's get to the point. In 2 weeks, I will finally turn 18. I was lucky because my birthday falls on the days I have to stay with my dad, so he, Layla, and I started planning my birthday a month ago. It will be nothing too crazy, just a party with family and friends at my favorite pizza place. A casual night where I just want to have fun with the people I care about and do what I like. The place also has karaoke, and I love singing. Of course, after booking and setting everything up, we sent out the invitations, and this extended to my mother as well. Honestly, I didn't really want her there, but then I thought that this would actually be the last time I was forced to be involved with her, because once I turn 18, I won't be forced to follow the judge's rules anymore. So, we sent out the invitations 2 days ago, and we already had almost all the answers, so we could organize the precise number to send to the pizza place. The only thing missing was my mother, who saw the text and did not respond. I told my father that I would not insist, and if she did not respond, then it meant she did not want to come, and I was fine with that. I think my father was also a little relieved by the idea, even if he didn't say it openly, but I could see it on his face. Anyway, the drama started this afternoon. My mother called me, very angry, accusing me of being childish and that I shouldn't have planned anything without telling her first. This left me a little confused, and I reminded her that I always planned all my birthdays with Dad and Layla. Most of the time she didn't even remember, so complaining now was quite hypocritical. This made her even angrier and started attacking me because Kira had been crying ever since I sent the invitation to my mother, because she had already planned a whole birthday party for me. And I was really speechless, because the relationship between me and Kira is zero. She is the classic spoiled brat who always wants to be the center of attention, and my mother has always supported this behavior of hers, making it worse, and clearly she and I have never gotten along. I just didn't understand why the hell Kira wanted to organize a birthday party for me. It didn't make sense. I asked her why she did it, and especially why she did it without telling me. I mean, she didn't really think I wouldn't make any plans for my 18th birthday, right? It was ridiculous. My mother said it was supposed to be a surprise, and since I didn't tell her about my plans, she thought I didn't want to do anything for my birthday. And I mean, she could have asked? No. But here comes the worst part, and I admit, the one that made me lose my cool. My mother started listing all the things Kira had prepared for my party, maybe to rub in my face what I would have missed, and they were all Kira's favorite activities, things that I didn't like. She had booked a fish restaurant for launch, and I don't eat fish. Not because of some whim, but because it makes me feel sick. Just smelling fish makes me feel nauseous. I'm not allergic, I had it checked. My body simply rejects it. She also booked an afternoon activity at a ranch near the city, where my mother now lives, where you can ride horses, and, well, I don't like it. I have nothing against horses in particular, but the idea of riding one or getting really close to an animal that big scares me. Then she thought about going back to my mom's house for a backyard barbecue for dinner, and I just don't want to do that because I don't want to spend more time with my mom than I have to. My mother also said they had already sent out invitations to everyone, and at that point I was really speechless. But I had to ask her who she had sent them to, because my friends, my dad and his family hadn't received anything. It turns out that at the party was mostly invited to Robert's family, my mom's family, and Kira's friends. I mean, it was basically a party organized by Kira for herself, but under the pretext that it was for my birthday, so I didn't hold back anymore. I laughed in my mother's face and hung up the phone. It was all too ridiculous to be true, come on. My dad came to me a little while ago, saying that my mom called him mad because I laughed in her face when she told me about the party they had organized for me, and he was very upset about it. He was starting to say that, despite all the feelings I had for my mom, they were trying to do a nicer thing for once, but I stopped him right away and explained in details how the party had been organized, a detail that my mom apparently left out with him. His expression changed quickly. He just said, "I'm going to make a phone call." And I've been hearing him yelling at my mother for at least 20 minutes by now. Layla came to me after learning about the situation and said that as much as she could relate to me, I was a little rude to laugh in my mother's face and hang up without explaining. For her, I should have spoken out like an adult, despite my feelings, and sort things out in a civil and mature way. She wasn't angry, just a bit disappointed about how I acted. As soon as she left, I thought about my actions, and maybe I was a little hasty, but I don't think talking to my mom about it would have helped. Honestly. But maybe I could have handled it better? I'm starting to think I was a bit of a in that moment. OP is not an AH for behaving rudely. Rather, his mother is an AH for not communicating with him properly and straining the relationship with her son. OP's reaction is reasonable, and I would rate him as 0 out of 5 on the AH scale. As for OP's mom, I would rate her 2 out of 5. Let's now jump on to the next story from original_product_965. AITA for leaving a date and not paying for her food? I, 21M, recently went on a date with Steph, 21F. We met on Tinder and messaged for a couple days before Steph asked me out for a drink, which I agreed. We hadn't spoken too deeply, mostly about music and hobbies, but I figured it's better to meet in person and see if there's a vibe rather than text and potentially waste time. So, we meet up and things are going okay at first, but got pretty hostile quickly. As I mentioned, Steph asked me out for a drink, and she picked the place. About 20 minutes after we got there, she started to complain about the place nonstop. She didn't like her drink, she didn't like the staff, she didn't like the decor. I asked if she wanted to go someplace else. Where we were, there's like a dozen other places within a 5-minute walk. She gave a big sigh and said, no, this was fine. I asked what made her pick this place. She said she'd been there before a few times. I thought it was really weird she was complaining about a place she picked, and she's been here before. She knew what to expect. I asked if the place had changed recently and she said no. Sort of a red flag, but I let it slide and we continued talking and things did get better. We connected on a few things and spoke for about an hour or so. I thought things had turned around basically. I asked at this point if she was hungry and she said yes. I said I knew a good sushi place just down the street if she wanted to go there. I suggested sushi because in her bio on Tinder, it mentioned she loves sushi, and we had texted about it earlier how we're both fans. She agreed she'd like that. I picked up the bill for the drinks and we went to the sushi place, and again, things were going well for about 20 minutes, and then her attitude changed. She asked me why I brought her here, to this restaurant. I didn't know what she meant. It wasn't rundown or cheap. It was a nicer sushi place, if anything. She explained she thought it was weird I brought her specifically to sushi because she's Asian. I said I suggested sushi because she had sushi her in bio. And we'd spoke about it as well. It was something I knew she liked. She insisted it was because she's Asian. I said to her, this isn't even the same kind of Asian you are. This is Japanese and you're Vietnamese. Those are two pretty distinctly different cultures. She then said it's still Asian, so it's the same thing. I said no, it's not. But she insisted it's Asian, so it's the same. At this point, I was pretty done with Steph. I thought I'd just finish the meal, leave, and wouldn't need to see her again. I was pretty quiet and she asked me about school. We hadn't really talked about it much, although I knew we're both in university. I said I'm doing my undergrad thesis now, as I'm in final year. She asked me about it and I said I'm basically doing interdisciplinary studies, focusing on philosophy, law, and mixing some technology in there, as I'm writing about one's self online and the legality of online identity. She began to laugh and said she never heard the word interdisciplinary before. I must have made that up to sound smart or something. I pretty much ignored the insult and said she can just Google it if she's not sure what it is. She kept giggling about how I made up a word. She said she was getting a real degree. I asked in what? She said literature. I snapped back at this point and said I was surprised she had such a weak vocabulary if she thinks I'm making up words and is a lit major. Yes, I probably shouldn't have been sassy like that, but I was so done with this girl at this point. She said again, at least she has a real degree, and asked what I'm going to do after graduating. I said, probably law school. I've already applied. I'm just waiting to hear back in the new year. She laughed and said I was wasting my time with more school. She had a job lined up at her dad's company doing HR or something like that. I can't remember what she said exactly. She started laughing about how I'm probably broke and will have a mountain of debt while she has a nice job lined up. At this point, I got up, went to the front, and paid my portion of the sushi and left. I didn't say I'm leaving. I didn't say anything to her. I just got up, paid, and left. About 5 minutes later, she texts me asking where I am. I text her saying I left. She starts blowing up my phone saying I'm rude and I left her there, and she doesn't have money to pay for the sushi. I said, not my problem. I thought I'm the broke one. She is calling me, texting me. I just block her number and go home. AITA for leaving her without a means to pay? Everyone sucks here. OP shows immature behavior by leaving the table without informing his girlfriend-to-be and just paying for himself. On the other hand, it is rude of OP's girlfriend to make jokes about his degree and trying to belittle him. So, in this case, both are AHs, and I would rate both OP and OP's girlfriend 3.5 out of 5 on the AH scale. Let's now move on to the next story from the Royal Glow. AITA for wanting to disinvite my fiance's childhood girl best friend from attending our wedding for drunkenly confessing her love for him at my bachelorette party. I, 23F, and my fiance Elijah, 28M, are due to get married at the end of next month at our destination wedding. Last night was my bachelorette party, and I invited my closest family and friends to come along with a few of my fiance's family and his friend Kami, 27F. For some backstory, I and my fiancé met when I was 19 years old. Both of our fathers are business partners and have been friends since I was in high school. One night, his family invited mine over for a party being held at their home, and that was the first time we met. I was attracted to him, but I knew he was older, so I didn't believe I had a chance. As the night progressed, he was hanging outside in his backyard alone smoking, and my sister dared me to go talk to him. So I did, and a year later we began a relationship. My fiancé and Kami have been friends since they were kids, and their families are very close. She's always been extremely nice towards me, and wanted to be best friends from the first time we met. I found it a bit odd, only because she barely knew me, but I didn't think much of it, because she had been dating my fiancé's best friend, Antonio, 28M. We didn't become best friends because I already have a close friend group, and I don't trust easily, but she's always been cool and never crossed any boundaries. Last summer, my fiancé proposed to me on a trip to Belize. When the announcement was made, everyone sent their congratulatory praises to us, but Kami. She sent a text the next day to my fiancé, only not our friend group chat, saying she was happy for him. She was a bit standoffish to me since then, but again, I never paid attention, really became, I have my own friends and life. About 6 months ago, Antonio and Kami broke up, but never really stated the reason why, just that they want to go back to being friends and be happy with other people. Fast forward to last night, my bachelorette was in a suite at a popular hotel here in Miami, where I live, planned by my older sister and Eli's sister Ava, 26F. The night was amazing, and I truly had the time of my life. We all were getting wasted, and I decided to go to the bathroom, and when I got closer, I heard voices and whimpering like someone was crying. It was then I heard Kami telling Ava that this should be her, and that she doesn't understand why he would want to be with someone like me, when it was always supposed to be them two together, that she always loved him. I sobered the hell up instantly. I might have to do a part 2. But guys, tell me, would I be the asshole for disinviting her from my wedding when it's a month away? Update. After I heard what was said, the old me started to revert back and I almost caused a scene. But I knew with my siblings, cousins, and friends all being there it would get out of control, and I still wanted to enjoy my night. But I did continue to listen. Some of you were wondering what Ava had to say about all of this. After Ava was able to calm Kami down, she explained to her that this was not the time and place, and that Elijah would never forgive her if she ruined my bachelorette party. She also told her that she thinks that she should leave and get herself together. I was about to walk in now. At the same time they were walking out, I acted as if I didn't hear anything and asked if everything was okay. Cami just wiped her face looking down, stating that she wasn't feeling well and that she might have to cut the night short. I honestly didn't fight her on it and even walked her ass to the door because TF? After she left, I pulled Ava to the side telling her that I heard everything. She apologized that I heard it and said that she would reach out to Eli to handle it, but I said no. Some of you also wanted to know why Cami said it should have been her. Did her and my ex have something going on before? I knew they hadn't but needed to be sure. So I asked if they had ever been together or dated. In response, Ava said not that she was aware of, only that their moms would always joke around when they were teens, saying that they could finally be related once Eli and Cami get married. She said that never happened because Eli was never into her. Cami is a gorgeous girl, but my fiancé does have a certain type, and it's not her. Respectfully. I wanted to ask more questions, but I thought I'd wait until I spoke with my fiancé for further answers. After that, I continued the party and even spoke with Eli quickly before bed. I posted on Reddit the next day after I had gotten home before I did anything drastic. My fiancé came home later that evening, and once he settled in and relaxed, I told him everything that happened. To say that he was irate is taking it lightly. He was absolutely furious. I asked if there was ever anything between them that I was never told about. I asked if they had ever been intimate and if she had ever confused her love for him before. He made it clear that there has never been anything but a friend's relationship in his eyes. He said that they had never had this before but did kiss once back in high school, playing bottle games with alcohol. But it was in a group and everyone kissed multiple people, including Antonio. He said that she has never confessed her love for him and is confused because he's the one that played a role in Antonio and her dating. He wanted to call her right then and there, but I told him to calm down first because being upset would only make things worse. I want to say that my fiancé isn't mad that I heard it or is trying to hide anything. He's upset because he feels hurt and betrayed that she would do this to him and at my party when we were all there to support me. My fiancé can get really protective of me at times. He doesn't like to hear anything negative. I did express to him that I feel uncomfortable with her going to our wedding now. I want people at our wedding who are genuinely happy and supportive of us. Tonight, he texted her saying that he needs to speak with her. She replied saying she will let him know when she's home. So, we will see how tonight's conversation goes. He also invited Antonio over for dinner, and we'll speak to him about what's going on because things feel off. A lot of you were also questioning hers and Antonio relationship and if she used him to make Eli jealous. So, we will all be present when the conversation does happen to see what she has to say for herself. Since Thanksgiving is in a few days, I will update you guys on how the conversation goes and if anything new comes to light. Just give me some time to get through this holiday. Also, I have a wedding dress fitting tomorrow. I'm so excited. I might make a collage and show you guys my reference photos. XOXO. Happy holidays. OP is not an AH for uninviting her fiancé's friend Cami. Her behavior is inappropriate. Despite knowing about OP's wedding, she confesses her feelings for OP's fiancé. It cannot be justified. So, I would rate Cami 3.5 out of 5 and OP gets a 0. What do the Mac Reddit fans think? Is the OP an AH or not? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like the stories I brought you, just hit the like button, share them as much as you can, and don't forget to subscribe to Mac Reddit for a daily dose. Bye bye. See you tomorrow with some more spicy fries?